every time they interrogate me. A match made in heaven, just to burn my family tree. Oh, my love, say a prayer for me on the bar.
But let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're working on, because you're putting sometimes when you put your updates on your Facebook page, and well, you put up a lot of them, and it's usually these bands that you're working with. You're mastering their stuff, and you're putting it up there. I think you put something up a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah, of our friend Scott Rudd, right?
Scott Rudd. Yeah, you did put up Scott Rudd.
And if before him, I'm really not. To be honest, I'm not great with social media, and I'm doing a lot of work now for Sonderhouse record label.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
well, first, let's talk about Scott Rudd a little bit. What was a particular track that stuck out to you? And I can put a little bit of it into this podcast to shoot a little money Scott's way. Do you remember this story? There was a band that put out a record that was nothing. It was just silence. It was silence for like an hour. And it was basically kind of a scam test to see if they could make money. And it wound up being played over and over and over and over again. And according to the accounting, they should have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars for all the times it was played. But then Spotify tried to con them out of the money. Just like, you didn't do anything. It was basically an album of nothing. It was an album of silence. Yeah. I think they took them to court, and I think they might have won, because it doesn't matter what it is as long as people are listening to it. And if people are listening to it, then, or, downloading it or whatever. Yeah. Because Spotify, they're one of these companies, a lot of these companies that tend to really scam musicians out of money, where, a musician will get thousands upon thousands of plays or million plays and not see any money. And all the money seems to be going to their administrative people, rather than, their paper pushers and accounting people, rather than the actual artists, who Spotify wouldn't be there if it wasn't for those people.
It's funny because there was, a lot of resistance to Spotify for many years, and now that it's really become the streaming platform, people have embraced it, and they're just starting to focus on getting into the high play numbers through playlists and curated lists like that. If you start to get, 1 million plays per month, then you could start making a little money.
I feel like, and it's also what's happening with YouTube too. YouTube is demonetizing sites because I feel, number one, this is all speculative because it's all based on internet, and number two, that money is owed to people. So when they demonetize people, and I put up a thing about this because this really disturbed me over the last week. I want to say it started around June 6th or June 5th. When they demonetize you, they're essentially stealing from you. That's and it's how
do they demonetize?
They take away your ability to accrue money from the popularity of your stuff. If you're getting,
are you talking about when YouTube censors or removes content, or when they could actually,
if they demonetize and that's the only source of income, then the channel could be deleted. Actually, a couple of channels. Actually, there's a site for artists like Bronwyn. Bronwyn goes to a site called Croquis Cafe, and it's mainly nudes. She draws nudes, and YouTube took down all the videos.
Right.
There's nothing in there that has anything to do with hate speech or anything like that. But they took it down. And Croquis Cafe, it's not like the most massively popular site. They have about 300,000 subscribers, I want to say, and their views are somewhere in that way too. But it is all original work because it's basically just nude models, and it's live action, and they're just there's nothing erotic about it at all. It's for artistic purposes only. A lot of these people are not even hot, and they don't have the greatest bodies in the world. They're just there because people who do figure drawing do that. This is what they do. It's part of their education. It's part of them, it's part of the things they like to do. And this site is gone. And the site was probably making some money for them too. And YouTube is like, it's all based on subjective criteria. So they're all just saying, oh, well, I think this is offensive. This should be taken down. It's just like one person instead of like, reviewing or evaluating this stuff,
I was raised in a family where, nudity and stuff like that was not taboo. My parents were... Your
parents walked around naked all the time?
No.
That's what I was...
No, but even in some, say Scandinavian countries like Sweden, where there's just a different mindset about it. There's not any real shame or taboo associated with being naked. It's conditioning.
I guess it's... How
did you raise your daughter?
I didn't raise my daughter to go running around. She just does that anyway. I was like, put some clothes on. No,
but you and Bronwyn you guys are pretty laid back.
I'm hip. I'm cool. I don't smoke the wacky weed or anything, and I don't drop acid. I only did it twice in my life. I tried cocaine. I've tried various things. The thing is, people are getting high so much around here that I can smell it coming into the kitchen half the time. Now, you remember when we were kids, we were told to stay away from drugs. We were told to say no to drugs. No one smoked out in the open. Now they do it all the time, and the cops are just turning the other way. I think it's fine to legalize drugs. Fine, legalize them. Fuck yourself up all you want. But the thing is, I don't want to walk down the street with my daughter and smell that shit. She doesn't like it either, which I'm glad, because I don't want her liking the smell of it. And I don't want her to be pressured into doing it because everybody else is doing it. And also, I mean, it seems like in the media, celebrities are just endorsing it left and right. They're always like talking about, oh, you should smoke weed. You should do all this stuff. The thing is, I'm a parent. I can't have my daughter following that kind of an example.
Well, that's exactly my point. When we circle back to the issue with the website that had the life drawing website,
right,
where the subject matter was, they had naked people essentially.
Naked people, right? But it was tasteful.
Okay.
And it was art.
So I believe possibly that there probably were enough parents who said, "Hey, we don't want our kids to see this," because they have their own set of values and system.
Well, I'll give you that, but the channel rather is age restricted, so only adults can look at it.
How do you age restrict something?
Well, when you set up your YouTube channel, it gives an option. Do you want this channel to be freely available to everyone, or do you want an age restriction on there because of content?
Yeah, but a 7-year-old kid is savvy enough to figure out your passwords and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's really not erotic. I mean, there's nothing. It's just, it's a lot of,
Hey, yeah. For me, I wouldn't have cared. I mean, even as a kid, there was no taboo around that. It didn't matter. But I'm just saying families.
What do you think about this idea that we're entering into a new puritanical age? An age of restriction, an age of censorship, an age of political correctness. A lot of this could be attributed to the left, and the thing now we're walking on eggshells around each other. We're frightened of each other and what other people might be thinking. Because I was thinking about this watching a movie, because I had to watch a movie for my Upstairs at Freilich show. It was called Black Moon Rising. And it was from 1986 with Tommy Lee Jones and Linda Hamilton. And there's a sex scene. There's a love scene in the movie. And they're both naked. And they're both, rolling around on the bed passionately. And I was thinking, we don't see this anymore in movies. I think erotic cinema is dead. There is no erotic cinema anymore. It all seems to be about violence. I mean, if you want violence, there is nothing but violence in movies. I mean, violence is more acceptable apparently than two people making love. It's like,
yeah. Well, I was going to say, what about that movie 50 Shades of Grey? I mean, that's a big Hollywood blockbuster, and that's definitely an erotic movie.
Well, I looked at a little bit of that movie, and it was not a turn on. It seemed really kind of safe. Compare it to a movie like Henry and June or What else? Oh, the two movies that we're going to talk about next time on the show, which is Angel Heart and Boxing Helena. And those movies have an erotic component to them both. They're both erotically charged movies. 50 Shades of Grey is very kind of safe and strange. I read somewhere that Dakota Johnson was completely shaved, and they had to add pubic hair digitally with a computer to her body. Because all these women apparently shave now. It's like the thing. I don't understand.
What was the Mickey Rourke movie from a long time ago in the 80s with Kim Basinger?
No, 9.5 weeks.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I remember that had some funny sex scenes, where they were, dripping stuff on each other. It was funny.
Dripping stuff and eating strawberries and blindfolded and all kinds of things. Yeah. I'm going to feed you eggs and all this stuff. That was, I don't know, 9.5 weeks. The book was far more explicit and brutal and violent than the movie. The movie was very kind of, it was directed by Adrian Lyne, who did the Flashdance. He was kind of like the Michael Bay of his time. He was a very stylish director.
Oh, okay.
So it was done with this kind of gloss and this glitz, but it was also available. It was out there in theaters. It was in 1,000 theaters. You make a movie now, you make something like that now, you're not going to be able to put it into 1,000 theaters because I guess studios just want kids. They want kids to go to see their movies and everything. Regan brought home a form from school that we're required to sign where teachers are going to start talking to them in 7th grade about sex education. And I don't know how I feel about that because I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want my public school to be telling my daughter about sex. I'd rather me or her mother talk to her about it because I feel like there's a lot of mixed messages going on now. Teen Vogue, for example, is publishing articles. Teen Vogue, it's for teens. They're publishing articles on how to have anal sex, and I don't know that. I don't know that I want. I don't know that kids should be doing that. It's not that I have a problem with anal sex. I don't. Actually, I kind of do, but
you like to. Sorry, I was going to say something.
I know what you were going to say. Yes, I've tried it and I haven't really liked it.
I'm sorry. I have to. In this, you're right. In the interest of being kind of politically aligned, politically correct, then you do have to kind of be careful with what you say today.
There's also the transgender stuff. I understand these people feel like what they are or don't feel like what they are, but it doesn't change the fact of what they are. It may be controversial, but I don't believe that children should be. They should not. I don't think that children, like these kids who are being put on hormone blockers because they feel like a girl one day, kids my daughter's age even, they should be given that. They should be, I think if you're going to make a decision like that, you should do it much later in life after you've pursued every other option. And if you're still uncomfortable, then maybe, okay, fine, whatever, but don't shove it down my throat, dude. That's just sort of how I look at it. Regan is very comfortable in her skin. She's very comfortable in her body, and she believes that she is a girl. How did we wind up starting with Scott Rudd and now we're here?
Oh, well, I'm just kind of curious though where we're going. So,
we were talking about music, just a little,
I guess we are talking about music, Scott Rudd, but also some of the filtration that's going on and some of the, just in general, how people are being careful about discussing topics. We don't go around harping on heterosexuality, and straight white men anyway these days, and hell, all straight men everywhere are being attacked, for being straight. It's weird. It's something, I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with having your freedom, but there is something wrong with thinking you're better than everyone else. That's what disturbs me mainly. From whose perspective?
Well, I'm looking at it from only my perspective, but I see.
No, I'm saying who's the voice saying that they're better than everyone else?
Oh, well, minorities, women.
Okay.
The new feminism, it speaks of superiority. I get the indication that I am inferior because I'm a man, or I am inferior because I'm something else, because I've been put into a box, and that box is labeled inferior, and everything else is superior. Anything else that has been, as part of victimization or something like that, like a group was victimized or exploited or made to feel inferior 50 years ago. And now we have to turn the tables and make the people who were the oppressors the oppressed. There's so much wrong with that because times are changing.
I find that the political climate is so complex right now, so tense, that I'm starting to realize that it's no longer just about being a Democrat or a Republican, that there are more nuances and there are personal issues involved.
Yes, you're getting it.
And emotions involved. And
I believe in a one world at some point. I believe in what they call globalism, but not right now. We're not ready for that because there's too many other cultures that are antithetical to our way of life. I harp on this a lot. America is the country of fun. This is the country of you can have anything you want. A lot of other countries are not ready for that. They're still bogged down by religion, by superstition, by tradition. All we ask of you is that you come here and have fun with us. You can do anything you want. There are countries you can't even walk around in England and wear a T-shirt that might have something offensive on it. You might spend the night in jail. For me, there's no such thing as white privilege. There is rich privilege. Rich people have privilege.
Yeah.
Poor people don't.
Well, this is the thing. When you're talking about things, you're sharing your feelings, and it seems like today you have to be so careful because you don't want to offend somebody. And when you listen to someone like Howard Stern, he kind of speaks his mind.
Yeah.
And there's an honesty and there's a truth. And in that honesty, he's inviting real dialogue, not fearful dialogue where people are editing themselves, because I don't believe that really gets you anywhere.
No.
And I listen to all, both sides of political debates, and everyone has some kind of validity to their argument. And I really think it's sort of the hostility, especially in how you could post something, on Facebook or tweet about something.
Yeah.
Just a couple sentences, and that could really incite anger.
Mm. I know.
And then
I know
someone
this
fires
now.
back, and then it's all about being angry. I'm going to say this, and you're going to say that. I don't think that's productive.
I'm now an administrator on another group, and I had my first test case today, where a comment was passed along to me to either delete or keep, and unfortunately I was forced to delete it because it was just complete anger with a lot of obscenity, some vulgar language in there, and I was like, I can't have this on this group. I have a responsibility here, and it's going to continue to make people angry.
Yeah.
So, what you have to have is you have to be able to balance it. It's like, okay, I consider myself a liberal, but I consider myself more of a classical liberal in the sense of freedom. I believe in freedom, expression. I believe in naked women running around on the street, that kind of stuff, even inappropriate stuff, whatever might be deemed inappropriate. But then I also have my conservative side to me, which is the fact that I'm a husband and father, and I believe in personal responsibility. So we need to have that balance. That balance has always worked for us. We need that balance of just being able to go crazy if we want, but also realize that we're the ones responsible for our actions. So that's.
But don't you? That's very well put. But don't you feel like in our era or age of social media, of texting, indirect communication, okay? In other words, it's no longer, there's very little face-to-face interaction.
Yeah. You're talking, social media, yeah.
And I find that something happens in the translation, in the subtext, in the tone of sending messages back and forth and making posts where the person, and this has been said a million times, but what the person is feeling and what they're trying to say is not necessarily being translated.
Yeah, it can't be expressed.
Whereas if
with
you're
words.
sitting across from someone or having a conversation, they could use the same exact words, but it might not strike you as being caustic.
Yeah, you don't know.
They're trying to piss you off.
You don't know whether or not the person is laughing or crying on social media.
Right. And it's really about the receiving end. It's about how you interpret a message, how you're feeling that day.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're in a bad mood, you might interpret it in a different way.
Or if you've had a few, you know.
Sure.
And
yeah,
I found myself, I used to get into some really nasty arguments a while back, and just sometimes I would just lose it completely and start cursing people out online, and I'm just like, but one thing that happened that was pretty good was our cable went out it was probably last summer, I think. Our cable internet went out for 3 days. It took 3 days for them to bring it back. So I had no social media, and I felt so completely clean. I felt like I was reborn in a way, you know?
Right. I have a friend who...
I think people need to get off social media once in a while. I think they need to get off 3 days, minimum 3 days, 2 weeks, a month or something like that. And, because it's like a drug. It's a weird drug.
It's become an abstract avenue of expression for expression. But I don't think it's necessarily the healthiest channel of expression if that's your only means of being heard. Because it's a crippled form of communication. There's distortion.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say is not necessarily how someone is understanding it as to be. So you have to be careful. I have a friend who just told me he's doing a lot of outdoor work every day. And he said he hasn't even been on the computer for days on end. And he said it feels fantastic.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I bet you he feels great. He's probably feeling a lot healthier.
Yeah. And so it just goes back to this thing where I believe that a lot of the intensity in our political climate is being fueled by social media. And everyone knows this.
Yeah.
When I mentioned Howard Stern, and he has people come in, and he has some heart. I don't think he's a bad person.
He's also got a lot of what we call fuck you money, which means he's made his money and he can say whatever he wants to say without caring anymore.
But he can't, because I think people in power today cannot say whatever they want, because the media will be all over them and they'll get destroyed.
Yeah, but I mean, like Stern, the thing about Stern is anybody says did you hear Howard Stern said this on his show? It's like, if you don't know who Howard Stern is, I mean, basically nothing. Like Louis C.K., when he was, he was accused of lewd behavior. And the thing is, anyone who's seen his stand-up act knows, that the people are going to be a certain way. It's like, what was shocking was, I guess, Bill Cosby or something, because he was like All-American, Apple Pie, America's dad. And then he's accused of all that. It's only... whatever front you're putting up, whatever the mask is that you put on when you go out there, and then to have a peek behind that mask and find out that person is not who you believe they were for all those years, that's the only reason you should ever be upset. But if Howard Stern says something lewd or crude or controversial, he does that. That's his whole thing. That's his monkey trick.
Yeah.
Basically.